Hi, I'm YL and welcome to my YouTube channel. If you're new here, me too. If you don't know me, I'm a crochet pattern designer and I'm mostly active on Instagram. So if you're curious, please check out some of my work. So today I'm showing you guys how to make this super simple, very beginner friendly crochet shirt top, which I call the calico top. How do you like that? Now you might be wondering, shirt as in the sewing technique, but yes, it is a sewing technique, but I'm thrilled to say that I have adapted it specifically for crochet, and I call it the TSP shirring technique. And the best part is that it is 100% crochet with zero sewing involved. So I will be releasing a more in-depth tutorial on this technique in another video, so please be sure to check it out if you would like to apply it to your own crochet project. Before we dive in, I just want to say that it is my first time making a YouTube tutorial, so please be kind, and if you have any suggestion or feedback, please drop it down in the comment below. Now without further ado, let's get started. Here I'm using a sport weight twisted cotton yarn from Pocomi, a 3.5mm crochet hook, and a 20-meter spool of shirring elastic. So to start, you're going to make a slip knot and leave about 7 to 9 centimeter tail. In chain 2. If you take a closer look at your first chain, the first stitch is called the top stitch. And if you rotate your stitch around, there's another stitch at the back called the back ridge loop. To make a foundation double crochet, you're going to yarn over and insert your hook into the top stitch as well as the back ridge loop. You should have a V-like stitch. Next, you're going to yarn over and pull through the V-like stitch, and you should have 3 loops on your hook. Yarn over, pull through the first loop, and you're going to want to remember this loop, and then yarn over, pull through 2 loops, and then yarn over, pull through the last 2 loops. Now you have your first foundation double crochet. To make the next foundation double crochet, you're going to yarn over and insert your hook into the V-like stitch at the bottom of the first double crochet. And yarn over and pull up a loop. You should have 3 loops on your hook. Yarn over, pull through the first loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, and then yarn over, pull through the last 2 loops. Now you have your second foundation double crochet. Continue making an even number of foundation double crochet until you've reached your MA. Now you should have an even number of foundation double crochet to the length of your MA. I made 214 foundation double crochet. Now we have to turn this foundation double crochet into a round. So if you look at your current foundation double crochet, this should be the right side with the top stitch facing you. And if you turn it over, this is what the wrong side will look like. The most important thing when joining a foundation round is to make sure your chain is not twisted. So we are going to run our finger along the chain to make sure that the chain is facing the right side. Once you get to the end, you're going to fold the wrong side together. And then you're going to run your finger back to the chain again to make sure that the chain is not twisted. It should meet perfectly. Like that. Make sure that the right side is facing out and the wrong side is facing inward together. Take the start of your foundation double crochet and face it towards you and insert your hook into the very first stitch. And then you're going to grab your working yarn and then pull through the first stitch. And you're going to chain 1, and we're going to pull on this chain to make it bigger so it is more secure. Next, we're going to join the bottom of the foundation double crochet. It's currently apart right now, and we're going to use the tail to join the bottom of the foundation chain together. So insert your hook into the bottom of the last stitch and grab the tail and pull through, and then you're going to chain 2 and then pull the tail through, and then you're going to tighten the knot very securely. Now that the bottom is secured, we're going to start our second round. To start the second round, we're going to turn over and work on the wrong side. You'll be turning over for every round. For this pattern, we are going to use the SC stack together as the first stitch in replacement of the turning stitch. So first, insert your hook into the first stitch and make a single crochet. And then you're going to make another single crochet into the front post loop of that single crochet you just made. You should now have a stitch that is an equal height to a double crochet. Continue working double crochet into every stitch until the end of round. Once you get to the end of round, make your last double crochet and slip stitch into the SC stack together to join the round. Then chain 1 and turn over. Start round 3 with an SC stack together. Work double crochet into every stitch until the end of round. Continue making your double crochet rounds until you have an even number of rounds to the length of your desired torso. Once you have your desired number of rounds, make the last double crochet into the last stitch and slip stitch into the first stitch. Chain 1, and you're going to put a stitch marker into this loop right here. Now you have two options. You can either cut your yarn and use a different color for the edging, or keep your yarn and use the same color for the edging. Before we start the shirring, you need to make sure that you are facing the wrong side of your work at all times. If the bottom of your foundation double crochet looks like this, you're facing the wrong side. If it's facing the opposite way, you're looking at the right side. Make sure to turn your work inside out so that the wrong side is facing out and the right side is facing together on the inside. Before we start the shirring, we need to identify the top stitch post, aka the TSP stitch. Taking a closer look at the anatomy of a double crochet, these stitches right here are called the top stitch, and the long part of the double crochet is called a post. The top stitch post is simply the loop that sits between the post and the top stitch, which is this one right here. It is generally hidden because it is sandwiched between the two parts of the double crochet, so it is not an actual stitch, which makes it the perfect spot for the shirring elastic to go in between in order to not be seen from the right side. For this pattern, you are going to crochet into every second top stitch post of the double crochet in order to create the shirring. So to start, you're going to grab your shirring elastic and make a slip knot. And make sure that the slip knot is the same size as your hook. Then remove the slip knot from your hook. Next, you're going to insert your hook into the first top stitch post of row 2, which should be the SC stacked together. Then insert your slip stitch back onto the hook and chain 1 to attach it. For the first 2 rounds of shirring, you want to make sure that your tension is tighter than normal. And now you're going to make a slip stitch into every second DC top stitch post of the round 2. The first chain 1 counts as the first slip stitch, so we're going to skip the second TSP and slip stitch into the third TSP. Continue making slip stitch on every second top stitch post until you get to the end of round. Since the first 2 rounds of shirring will be tighter than normal, you want to put a lot of tension onto the hand that is holding your elastic. And make sure that your tension is consistent throughout. Once you start, your double crochet stitches is going to start to bunch together like this. If you compare your slip stitch loops to your hook, it should be very similar in size or smaller if you're doing a tighter tension. Here, I could have had my tension a little bit tighter. Once you get to the end of round, skip the last top stitch post and you're going to slip stitch in the first chain. And then chain 2 to fasten off. You would normally do a chain 1 to fasten off, but because this is a shirring elastic, chain 2 will secure it better. And tighten the knot to secure the yarn. And to properly fasten off, you're going to take both of the tails and make sure that the tails are facing the back and not looped around the stitch. Take both ends and tie a triple or a quadruple knot. And finally, cut both ends of your tail and leave about 1 centimeter. Now your shirring elastic will be very secure and will not unravel when wearing. You will need to fasten off like this into every single shirring rounds that you make. To make the next round of shirring, we are going to skip the next double crochet round and we're going to crochet into the 4th round. To start, grab your shirring elastic and make a slip knot. You're going to then repeat the exact same step as your first shirring round on the 4th round. So attach your yarn on the first TSP and make a chain. And you're going to slip stitch into every second top stitch post. Skip the first one and slip stitch into the second top stitch post. Here I made a mistake of not tightening my slip knot, so I have to redo it. Make sure that your slip knot is the same size as your hook. As you start adding more shirring round, your work is going to have a lot more tension and will give the shirring effect. Here you can see that with more shirring rounds, there is more tension when you're trying to stretch it. The more shirring rounds, the stronger the tension is going to be. Continue working your shirring rounds onto every second double crochet rounds until you get to about your underbust area. Loosen your shirring tension for this section. Once you've reached the underbust area, we will now start adding more tension to the elastic to shape the rest of the top. Start the round as normal, but this time you're going to put more tension on the hand holding the yarn. If you take a closer look at the loop of my slip stitch, this time it looks a lot more tighter. Continue working the round in tight tension until you get to the end of round. This is what my finished round looked like. If you compare it to the previous rounds, it is much tighter. Continue working your tight shirring rounds until you have 2 rounds left. Once you've added all your shirring rounds, your top should look like this. Next, you're going to flip the top right side out with the bottom of the top facing upward. We're going to start the edging by removing the stitch marker. Make sure not to undo the chain. Next, you're going to grab an accent color yarn. If you're using the same color yarn, then skip the color change. Grab a new yarn and loop it through the chain. Then with the tail of the previous color, just tighten up that chain. With both the tails of the new color and the old color, you're going to tie a knot. Keep the hook on that loop so it doesn't come undone. Make a double knot. Now that the new yarn is added, we're going to make a crab stitch border around both of the edgings of the top. A crab stitch is basically a single crochet stitch worked backward, so instead of the normal working direction, you're working the opposite way. Make a single crochet on the first stitch. Make sure to carry your tails as well so you don't have to weave them in later. This is your first crab stitch. You're going to make another single crochet into the second stitch. And you're just going to do single crochet backward on every single stitch until you reach the end of round. You should start seeing a very clean edging stitch. Once you get to the end of round, make the last crab stitch in the last double crochet. And then we're going to pull the tail and cut the yarn here. Now we're going to do the invisible bind off method for the crab stitch. Grab a darning needle and thread your working yarn through the eyelet. If you didn't carry your tail, you can also thread them through at the same time. Turn your work so that the wrong side is facing you. And we're going to thread the tails through the back of the first couple of crab stitches. Make sure to even it out. And we're going to thread the tails the opposite way to secure it. Skip the last stitch and start threading your needle backward the opposite direction. Tighten and readjust the loops and then cut your yarn. Once everything is weaved in, it should look very nice and clean. And you're going to repeat the same thing on the top edging. Make sure that you're still facing the right side. Once you've completed your edging stitch, this is what your completed top should look like. And this is how the completed top should fit on you. If you like the design and sharing technique, I also have a 6-in-1 bundle with 6 different variations of this design using the same technique for those who like varieties. It also includes sleeves. It is a super versatile technique and I'd love to see you guys attempt something out of it. I hope you learned something new today, and if you enjoyed this tutorial, please support me by leaving a like and comment and subscribe to my channel.
I will be posting more in the upcoming months, focusing on sharing my knowledge as a crochet pattern designer, as well as more beginner-friendly focused tutorial. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next video.